In this lesson, we're going to talk about sending data to pages using URL parameters. URL parameters are a really great way to send extra information to a page via the URL, via the address that you see up here in your browser. This is great if the data is not going to be saved in the database for whatever reason, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. And it really gives you a lot of flexibility because if you're using a dynamic page system, for example, the job post page we went over in the last lesson, you can continue to send additional references to other data types to the same page via the URL. Because if you recall from our search page, when we wanted to navigate to that particular job post, there's only one spot to send one record here to that page. But this action here, send more parameters to the page, allows you to send additional data via the URL. So I'm going to show you really simply here how this changes the structure of your URL when you take advantage of this feature. And I'll break down what it means to add a parameter and how to read the parameters and the best practices for setting parameters up. We'll also go through a common example of creating a referral system using URL parameters. So we're back on my search page. And again, when we click on this button for a particular job post, it's going to send the user to the job post page, which has been set up to be a dynamic page. And it's going to send that selected job post to the page. But let's say we wanted to send other information that was not tied to the job post in any way. Let's say we want to send the current date and time. We'll keep it really simple here. These values that you send in the URL can be literally anything. It can be pulled from your database. It can be about the current user. It can be information that you have on the page. Generally, anything that you can also insert static values too. Anything that you will need on that other page, you can pass through a parameter if it's not already associated with this record that you're sending. So when you select this checkbox, you'll be able to add your first parameter here. Parameters are made up of key and value pairs. Okay, so each parameter has a key, which is like a label or an ID, and then a value, which would often be something different depending on what you're doing. So for example, here with my key, I'm going to do the name of this parameter is going to be date. So the date's going to change. If the user clicks on this and we're going to insert the current date and time, it's always going to be different. The date and time will be whatever it is when they clicked that button. So that's why our value is something that is most likely going to be dynamic. You can, however, type something in, sample date. This can take a static value if you wanted to. But I'm going to insert dynamic data, and we'll do the current date and time. And I'm just going to format this date and time value as something pretty legible. We'll just do it like this. I'm going to do a custom format. I'm going to get rid of all of this. We're going to do day hyphen mm hyphen year, just like that. Right? So I'm now going to pass this parameter, which is made up of a key and value pair, to my job post page. So with this alone, let's preview it so we can take this step by step and see how it works. So I'll click on one of our posts here and take a look at this. At the very end of the URL, I can see my parameter has showed up. It is date equals, and then there's the value of the date that was inserted. Let's look at what else is happening in this URL here. So to start, the very first part of the URL is just the domain. This is the base domain. Whether you're on a free plan, you might see Bubble Apps here, or if you're on your own custom domain, if it's, myawesomeapp.com, whatever it might be, that's the first part. If you're on the development version of your application, then you will see version test here. Bubble keeps them apart that way. If you're on the live version, then you won't have this in the URL. Then we've got the name of our page. So in this case, it's job post. And then after that, it is the unique ID with the readable text here that we set up for this particular post that we're looking at. So we've got assistant professor because we set up that readable to be the title of the job, and then the unique ID of the job. And then we have our URL parameters. URL parameters will start in your URL with a question mark. So this begins the URL parameters. Anything after the question mark, it would be a list of one or more parameters. You can have multiple. So we can see that actually our first one is one that Bubble adds in automatically whenever you click that preview on your editor page here. Bubble will automatically add the debugger parameters. So you can see that the key is debug_mode and the value is true. So that just means it's allowing Bubble to display the debugger down here. If the value was false or the entire parameter for the debugger was not even present, then this would not show. Okay, and then we have an ampersand. This is telling, this is a way to separate your multiple parameters. So we have parameter 1 and parameter 2. If I wanted to add a third, I could do and then another key and value pair. For example, age equals 20, something like that, right? So this, I have 3 parameters here, the debug mode, date, and age, and they're separated by ampersand characters. Okay, so then every key and value pair can be used to make things happen on the page. So you can actually extract these values on the page to do something with them. So I'm going to show you a quick example here. So let's go back to the search page where we initially set up the parameter of date. I'm going to add another one just so that we can work with multiple, and I'll do my example of age. Keep it very simple, and I'll do a static value. We'll do 30. All right, so now we'll go over back to the job post page and edit that. And just to show you how to extract a value from your URL, you'll want to use a specific dynamic expression that is for this type of function. I'll do this with a text element here. So I'm going to insert dynamic data and navigate down to this function here, get data from page URL. Once I select that, Bubble's going to ask me, all right, which parameter do you want to extract the value for? Because it's going to assume that there are multiple parameters in the URL, so you have to specify which one you want. We're going to do the date parameter. Okay, so I'll type in the name, and I just have to remember that if I'm customizing these parameters, that the name is spelled the same way, case sensitive, all of that. And we'll talk about the type in a second, but I'm going to leave this as text. You can see that you can actually change the type. And so now the value of this expression is going to be the date parameter's value. Okay, now I'm going to copy this text and paste it so we can also display our age parameter that we've also added. So all I need to do here is change the parameter name to age. Okay, now we will refresh. Let's go back to our search page. I'm just going to do this manually here. I'm going to type in search so that I can keep the URL a little bit cleaner. I don't want the debugger in there right now. So I'll go back to this assistant professor post. And here we go. We can see date equals, there's the value of my date, and age equals that static value that I typed in, 30. And you can see here in my text, I was able to extract those values. So now you can see where this is starting to come in. I can pass data to pages via the URL and use them on the page. And not just to display them, but also to save them to the database if I need, or have them update or pre-fill an input if I want it to. These are values just like anything else. They're just coming from the URL. Now, with the type, you can have Bubble recognize that value as something specific. So for example, if I have Bubble recognizing the value of the age parameter as a number, then I can do math with this because now this value is a number. So if I type more after this expression, you can see that I can do math operations. Let's do plus 100 so we can see this working here. This one with the date, it's still currently a text. So if I try to modify this expression, I only get text-related operations there. If I were to change it to a date, then I'll have date operations, such as manipulating the hours, the days, things like that. So I'm going to just refresh the page now that we've modified this value here. So you can see 100 was added to the value for the age parameter properly. Now we can see that the date text kind of disappeared because this isn't a proper formatting of date. If we want Bubble to read it as a date, we would have had to send this date value without any modification. I had modified it so that it is formatted like this specifically. We would have had to send it without a modification so Bubble could properly read it as a date. Now, one more thing about the type is, let me do another one here. You can also set your type to another custom data type that you've created in your database or to the user data type. Let me change this back to text so that we can continue to see that. Now let's say that we're going to add another parameter called user. And the type of this parameter is going to be a user. Okay, now I'm just going to leave this as a straight expression like this. So because I've set this to a type of something in my database, and whether it's user or anything else, it could be application, company, even another job post, this is going to reference that record. Now what Bubble is looking for the value of this type of parameter, where the type is a custom type, it's looking for a unique ID. So that's the value that I would have to send in the URL for this parameter if I want to extract it and have Bubble read it as something in my database. So because I've set this up as user, I can see that I have access to user records. So let's do an example here. I'll set this to display the user found in the URL, their full name. Okay, and I'm going to manually type this in. Well, actually, let's do it through the workflows. Let's go back to search and go to the workflow for the view post button. And we'll go back to our action here. Oh, it's taking a second to think about it. There we go. And we'll add another parameter for user. And we'll set the value of this one to the current user's unique ID. Okay, because again, if we're extracting it as a type, Bubble is looking for a unique ID. This is the completely unique string of numbers that Bubble generates for you for every single record in your app. This could be current users, it could be any other user. I could search for a specific user and grab their unique ID too. So now I'm going to go back to my search page. And I believe, let's see, I'm going to make sure that I'm running as a user to make sure that I am logged in as someone. And we'll do this one here. Okay, so now I'll select a post. Here we go. So if we go to the very end here, so we can see date is still there, age is still there, Bubble is adding that 100 to the age, and we can see user equals the unique ID of the current logged in user. And the value of this dynamic expression was to show the full name of the user that was extracted from the URL. All right. So now that we know how to display and extract and send different parameters to the page, I'm going to show you an example of where this becomes really, really useful. So I'm going to go over to the dashboard page. We don't have anything designed on it, but let's say that users come here to create a link that they can share with their friends. And that link will have a unique code in it so that when their friends click on that link, they're taken to sign up on the app. and the code will be read by the application so that we know who referred these new users. This is a very common way to create a referral system. You share a special link with your friends and family. They will use that link and the app will remember who referred you. And from there, you can do lots of different things. You can give them credit to the subscription plan that they might need to pay for to use their app, or give them access to special features, or simply have it as a way to make a note of people being referred to be able to say thank you later. So I'm going to do an example of that kind of a system, and we're going to use URL parameters to help us with this. So first, let's say we are on the dashboard page of a user who already exists. Okay, so they want to be able to grab the link with their own special code for themselves to share with their friends and family. I'm going to use an input for this. Okay, and we're going to fill in this input with this unique link that will always be unique to this user. Now we do need, I'm going to update the database actually first. We're going to go back to data types and user and create a new field called referral code. And this will be a plain text. So whenever the user signs up, we'll want to create a unique referral code for that user automatically so that going forward, the user will always have access to the sign up link that contains this code. This is something that you should have the app generate for the user instead of having them create a code of their own. So I'm actually going to go over to sign up, which is on our index page. And we'll go to the workflow for this sign up button. This is where the user enters their email, their password. They indicate whether they are a company or they're a job seeker. And we'll go over to the workflow for that. And we have split this out. If you recall from a couple lessons ago, we were working with event conditions. So we split up the workflows depending on who they are, whether they're hiring or whether they're looking for jobs. But both of them have this sign up action. So what we want to do is automatically create a referral code for every single user. So I'm going to add another field to save directly upon sign up. So I'm going to select the referral code. And here is where we'll use a very special bubble function that allows us to generate a random string of characters. That can be found under Calculate Formula. And then you'll select Generate Random String. This is very useful for features like this. To generate a random string, all you need to do is select or enter in a number of characters that you want it to be. So let's do something like 8 characters. And you have to select at least one of these options. So I'm going to do 8 letters. They will be either capitalized or not capitalized. I don't really care too much. I'm just going to require at least letters of 8 characters long. Okay, so for every user that signs up, a different string will be generated. So this is a dynamic calculation that will happen for us. I'm going to copy this expression by right-clicking it, select copy. I'm going to go over to my other workflow here and do the same for this sign-up action. I'll change another field, select that new referral code that we created, and insert dynamic data, and right-click and paste so that they also get that same flow. Okay, so now before I preview and sign up a user with this code, let's just go over to our dashboard again. So here's where I have this input that I was starting to put together. And the initial content, I'm going to have it, well, you know, actually we could do a regular text. This doesn't necessarily need to be an input. We'll do this with the text. So this will be, if I want my users to share a link to the sign up page and include the referral code, then I need this link to start out with that sign up page URL. So the best way to do this is with a dynamic expression, and you start out with website home URL. This will insert your index page. Regardless of whether you're on a bubble hosted domain or on your own domain, and also whether you're on the version test version of your app or the live, Bubble will insert whatever is most appropriate here. So if you're previewing this page while you are on version test, it will generate the index page's URL with version test automatically for you. Makes it very handy. I'm going to preview this page right now so that we can see what this expression does on its own. So you can see there is my home page with version test because I'm currently on the version test. And remember, I'm on the dashboard page currently. But this is to show our index. Okay, so then to add the parameter for the referral code, I need to manually construct the structure of this. So I will do a question mark, remember, because the question mark is the beginning of your parameters. And then I'll do my key and value pair. So I will do code as the name of my key. This is just something that I'm coming up with. I just need to remember to stay consistent and remember that this is the key name when I go to extract it later. And then equals, and then we'll do insert dynamic data, current user's referral code. Okay, so now this is creating that full URL. And now the user, when they are on their dashboard page, they can copy this and share it with their friends. And there's lots of ways to do that. You could have a button to send it in an email. There's a plugin that actually lets you copy to clipboard, which makes it things like this very handy. We're going to keep this simple and just display it in a text element so that we can actually grab it by right-clicking and copying and highlighting the text. Okay, so now let's see. I'm going to go back to my index page and sign up as a user so that we can have a referral code generated for us. So we'll do referral@test.com, test. Let's say we're looking for jobs, sign up. Okay, so I have my workflow set up to automatically take me to the dashboard page, and we can already see our link here. Here's the full URL, and there is our code. This was automatically generated for us. Let me make it a little bit wider so that it shows up on one line. Okay, so now this user who has just signed up can share this link because this code is always going to be different for every user. And if we go into the database, app data, and check out this new user here, we can see that code was saved to that field from our sign up action. So now we can set up this system where anytime a friend or family member clicks on this link or navigates to this link that they were sent, we can extract this code and find the user who originally referred them. So I'm going to go over to my data types and back to the user table and create another field. And the field name will be referred by. And this will be the value of a user record. Because when somebody signs up, a friend or a family member, and there is a code in the URL, we're going to look up that user who referred them and link them to this friend or family member so we know where they came from. Okay, so this is going to be linked to a specific user record. This is for their own code to share out, and this is for us to know who referred them to begin with. So I'm going to go back to the index page, which is where our sign up happens, and it's where referred friends and family will end up with that code in the URL. I'm going to close this one here. We don't need that right now. Okay, so I'm going to create a conditional action at the end of my workflow, but before the go to page action. This is actually something to keep in mind. Go to page actions or any navigation action that takes you away from the current page, those have to be at the end of your workflow because Bubble is going to assume that this is the last thing that happens. Everything else needs to happen before. Obviously, if you change the page, you can't continue to run actions after it because the user is no longer there. So I'm going to insert an action here to make a change to the brand new user that signed up. And we're under the assumption that this is a friend or family member. Okay, so thing to change will be current user. And we only want this to run if there is a code in the URL. And that's how we know that this is a friend or family member that is using a referral link. So only when we're going to extract data from the page URL, only when code, okay, we can see this changes get code from page URL, is not empty. Doesn't matter what the code is, as long as there is a value, then we know that this is a friend or family member coming from a shared link. So I had to type in the parameter name because that's the one that I'm expecting, because I know that I have allowed my existing users to share a URL with this particular parameter. Okay, so when code is not empty, then we're going to update this friend or family member record. That field that we're changing is going to be the referred by field. This is the one that I just added. Referred by is going to be the person that originally sent them here. So I need to find this user via the code. So what I'm going to do is a search of my database, search for users, and I'm going to add a constraint where the referral code of this user equals the code in the URL. And a quick way to grab that, since I've already written it here, is to just right click and copy this expression. I'm going to select my search again to pull back the constraints, and right click and paste expression. And I'm going to remove this part of the expression here that is not empty. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so I'll go back there. So as long as the referral code equals the code from the URL, that's the user we want to retrieve. So I'm going to select the first item from this search because in theory, the codes are being generated completely uniquely for every single user. So there should only be one code, one unique code per user. Anything that's in the URL should only be found under one user record. So we'll do search for users with this constraint, first item. Okay, and I'm just going to copy this action to make sure I add this to the other flow as well. So if I paste it directly on an action, Bubble will automatically insert it before that action. So it's a little shortcut there for you. And I don't need to adjust anything here because I want the exact same thing to happen regardless of whether the friend who is signing up is a company or a job seeker. All right, so now I'm going to go back to this page here to grab this link. So I'm going to sign up again as the friend of this original user using their link. So I'll go to this URL and I'm going to sign up as friend@test.com. The password will be test, and I'm also looking for jobs. Now let's go ahead and sign up. So as the friend, I'm going to be taken to my dashboard, and we can see, first of all, that I have a lot of pop-ups. We can see that the friend also got their own unique code so that they can share this link with their own friends and family. So that's my link, but let's go back to the database and make sure that the relationships were linked properly. So I'm looking at my user table. I'm going to refresh the data here, and there we go. So here was the original user who signed up and received this code. They shared their link with another person who signed up with this code. They got their own code, and because they signed up through this one, we were able to tie them back to the referring user. So we can see that friend was referred by the referral user. So that is a really actually popular way of using URL parameters in your workflows to make things happen in your database, especially when the data in the URL is not coming from any logged in users or any other references that you might already have otherwise. This allowed a user who was not even a part of the application yet to trigger something in the application because they had something in the URL telling us that they were referred by another person. URL parameters are very, very powerful. Again, you can have multiple of them in the URL. In fact, if you look at your address bar here when you're on your app editor, you can see that Bubble also makes use of multiple page URLs. We have, here's the question mark to start them off. So we have type equals page, name equals index, which tells us that Bubble needs to show the index page. Version equals test. If we change this over to live, then we would be seeing the live version of our application editor. ID equals the name of your app, and tab is to show you the tab of the editor. So you can really actually look at this and completely break down how Bubble has structured their own application for allowing you to edit your apps. If I change this to tab number 2 and reload the page, I'm going to be taken to the Workflows tab. So we'll reload so that you can see this here. And it's going to think just because it needs to load the whole app, and see how I've automatically brought over to the workflow. So that's what this is indicating. I could also change the name of the page to dashboard and reload it, and it's going to take me to the workflow tab of the dashboard page. You can see that there. So this is something that is web-wide. It is not unique to Bubble. URL parameters are a very standard and common thing. It helps websites do different things and pass information, especially temporary information, around without having to save things to the database first. Now, of course, you always can extract a value from the URL and use a workflow to save those values to the database if you ever need to do that.